Cross-cultural awareness. Globalization of the world has impacted all areas of human life. There is more and more cultural interaction between people belonging to different cultures. We can say 100 years ago, a person was born and he died in the same culture without having to confront with a person from another culture having a different worldview or a belief system. The reason for this increased cultural interaction is because of internationalization of education and of business, as well as increase in immigration of the common man as well as of the professionals. Then, because of media and advertising, because of the entertainment industry, as well as because of tourism and faster and easier means of travel. Business English understanding teacher needs to have a thorough understanding of the communicative practices and the discourses which the learners need to feel comfortable with and to critique, as well as they need to understand the communities of practice which is needed by their Business English learners. Also to make programs which are aimed at specific and purpose-driven learning. ESP practitioners should contribute their own published research regarding Business English topics and practices as a resource that can facilitate their practice. They can play a supportive and a pragmatic role of broadening our understanding of the cultures from which our students belong. Cultural differences in business communication can be understood by using at various distinctions which can be seen in cultures. One of the most commonly used is the low context and high context differentiation between cultures. This is used to understand how negotiations proceed, how agreements are made, how the workers are managed, and so on. But a more appropriate method would be to look at cultures according to the rule-based and relationship-based cultures, which also give us a deeper understanding of how cultures operate and relate them to other aspects of human nature. If we look at the marketing and advertising side of business, we can apply the distinction of the cultures in order to understand that. It is generally understood that marketing and advertisement, they imbibe diversity. However, they are not as well homogenized as is generally supposed. The Western practice of relationship marketing is based upon having business networks, although the styles of different people and different cultures might different. Then networking is based upon the individual and the family connection. So in some cultures, networking would be through the individual going in a trade fair, going up to a client, introducing himself or herself and making a business proposition. But in other cultures, perhaps this networking is carried out through family connections. This distinction between cultures can be seen in the area of transparency, how much transparency is allowed or is accepted in different cultures. So the issue of transparency comes foremost in finance and investment, and it reflects the underlying orientation towards rules and relationships which each culture imbibes and accepts. So the rule-based culture would have a different perception of how to deal with transparency, and the relationship-based culture would have a different one. So transparency in a relationship-based society would be that investment occurs through pre-existing trust relationships, through family ties and through friendships. So the recent increase in Chinese economy is basically fueled through family-based investments, not through having networks with or through rule-based because it is a relation-based culture. Then considerable amount of this boost in economy has been fueled by the Chinese communities who are living in Canada, Indonesia, Malaysia, and in North America. So we can say that this process, because it is based on relationships and on cultural ties, it is not transparent. No financial statements are required in this process. They are given no importance, and it is even supposed to be insulting if somebody asks for them. Whereas in rule-based cultures, the form of communication is basically the accounting statement, the prospectus, and the annual report, and all of these rely on rule-based activities. The accounting, for example, there is an intricate system of reporting standards where the generally accepted accounted principles called the GAAP is used. Practitioners are certified only after they pass some grueling examinations. Prospectuses and corporate annual reports are regulated by the company laws or government laws to ensure their transparency. Cultural differences can also be seen in the conception of human nature. For example, in relationship-based cultures, there is an importance given to the in-group, and control is exercised through relationships, and therefore it is and through high power distance. Subordination is accepted by both the parties as something which is natural, and business understanding, business interaction has to be based on understanding of these rules. Whereas in rule-based cultures, there is more equality among relationships. Individuals are supposed to be autonomous in their behavior and in their interactions. So therefore, it is called a low-power distance culture. Rules are central to any interaction which happens, although this raises problems of relationships in these cultures. But still, because it is a rule-based culture, so these are taken care of. In America, for example, people usually take turns to assume a leadership position, and they return to the normal position when the term expires. Difference in power distance effect can be seen both in verbal and non-verbal communication. In both these cultures, verbal cues are very important in cultures of Korea and Japan, and they rely heavily on grammatical inflections in order to show deference and respect to people. This is also reflected in how language is used for in-groups and for out-groups, and observing the necessities, the etiquettes of language are also vital for successful communication. Deference can be shown in avoiding loss of face by avoiding loss of face for seniors and older people by avoiding such remarks. Body language body language uses low bows, and even in presenting cards, you have to be careful about how you present card in order to show respect. Punctuality, the concept of punctuality is also different in monochronic and polychronic cultures. Arriving on time is an important aspect in this regard. Bureaucracy, high context societies require greater paperwork and bureaucracy, even though they take the written rules less successfully as compared to low context cultures. For example, the US government required 26 documents to approve a joint venture. As opposed to this, Japan required 325 documents and South Korea required 312 documents. So we can see that there is a lot of difference in the red tapeism which exists in different cultures. So students training need to incorporate the Western practice of relationship marketing to learn what to expect and what to behave in interaction with different cultural groups. Business English actually is not standardized, and there are no accepted business etiquettes. Vocabulary should therefore be taught along with practical business skills to learners, and the use of case studies is very important in this respect because it shows how other people have dealt, how they have dealt with similar situations.